Alrighty, folks, it is Thursday night, 7 o'clock. Welcome to Hunting the Rut Hotline. My name's Don Bell and Big Steve. Yep, sabbatical is getting close, folks. It is Thursday night. And, folks, listen to me. We are here. What's today? The 28th, 29th, 23rd. Is it the 23rd? 30th. Yeah, since it dog. We done this deal. You got it on the thing. Hey, listen, tomorrow's the 1st. Tomorrow's a big deal all across the country because we as hunters, we're going past that 4th of July weekend, and dog, at that point, we're on. All the dealers in America, they've been fishing, and they got the fishing stuff in, and they're starting to get a little bit of hunting stuff in. But after the 4th of July, all of us hunters, all of our attention is now focused on September and October in America, because now we're in. Some of you's already been in the woods. You've already been scouting. You've been looking. You're getting ready to plant those food plots. You're in there bush hogging. If you hadn't, you ought to be. You will be after the 4th this weekend. A lot of you boys will leave. A lot of you leave tonight. Take off tomorrow. You'll be bush hogging tomorrow and Saturday. You'll take Sunday off. Be back for the 4th. You're on. Folks, it is Thursday night. It is time for Hunting the Rut Hotline. And folks, we're going to be talking about a bunch of stuff tonight, so stay tuned. We'll be right back.
You don't like old milk. Deer don't like old urine. Brown and cloudy urine reeks of ammonia. Ammoniated urine means it's old, not fresh, and it doesn't fool deer. Top Secret Deer Scents, the only scent on the market that's oxygen-free from collection to bottle. It's yellow and clear because it's fresh. It's the only scent on the market that says a deer is here now and not last week.
Oh, okie dokie. All right, folks, we love doing this show. It's live, and you guys call in and tell us, you get a big kick out of the way we do this thing. And look, we started this show 2 years ago. Guys, 2 years. Yeah, 2 years ago, and people said, well, now that's crazy. You're going to have one camera and 2 chairs, and you're going to have 2 guys sitting there talking. But the difference is we're talking to each other, and this is a weekly show to where we answer your questions. And, sometimes you just want to know. But the key to it is it's chronological. We're going in a line. We're starting telling the story chronologically to where we can follow it. All of a sudden, season just doesn't drop out of the sky in a bucks and rut. There's a process that goes through that. All these bucks that you're going to be hunting this year on your piece of property, no matter where you're listening to us at tonight, whether you're in Florida, Texas, Manitoba, Saskatchewan, it doesn't make any difference. Those deer have been living on that property, in and around that property all year. They know it. But we're about fishing and turkey hunting and working and doing whatever we're doing called life. But they're still living that piece of property, and their life goes through a transition period. Now, what we're fixing to do after the 4th, we're fixing to put pressure on the same deer that we put last year, because we're fixing to get on that piece of property. And you're fixing to start doing stuff. And, and I tell people, pressure's a bad thing, but it can also be into your advantage. A quick example of that is if you ever hunted in Canada with a guide one time, outfitter, and what he would do on his piece of property every morning, every afternoon on his property, he would drive a 4-wheeler in, he'd go up to the shooting house, and he'd slam the door. Get on the 4-wheeler and leave. That afternoon, he'd come up, he'd slam the door, he'd leave. Nothing happened after the door slammed. So the deer is conditioned to not paying any attention to that. Some of the questions tonight was looking through some of the stuff on Facebook, people asking about pressure on it, farming, and that kind of stuff. You'll see what I'm saying. If it's a routine noise, whitetail are best of any animal in the country of adapting to that routine of non-invasive action. As long as it's a sound, they pay attention to it, but they soon realize whether it's good or bad. Now, what's going to happen come after the 4th of July weekend, we're going to start getting back on our property, driving it, doing it. You're not messing with them. They may see you, they may blow you, and see, but you're not encroaching on them, putting pressure on them too bad. But as it increases, the more we're there, then you start shooting. There, you're gradually increasing that pressure on them. They get more educated. So you got the deer that was educated last year that can do that, especially big does. You guys know that, man. Them jokers will blow you a mile away. They know it. Then a buck, and then you got all these young deer that's coming up that's never had that kind of exposure that you're going to educate this year. And so Mama and Papa's going to have to tell them what that means. And so all of this is going on as you're trying to go out and shoot a deer. And folks, it's July, and that means something because we're at the pivotal point of changing over, getting back on that piece of property. Not as hard, but you're going to start getting there more in a routine, and you're going to educate them. You can't help but to do it. And you can educate them badly, or you can educate them in a good way. You need to pay attention to that. So as you get ready to plant all these food plots and stuff, we'll start seeing the questions come in as season. You can tell when people's out in the woods because they're asking more specific questions rather than the big picture question. And so that's starting to come up. Now, one of the things we want to remind you guys of is that because it is after the 4th of July weekend, it's seminar time. Starting next week after the 4th, all the shows we'll start posting each week where our seminars are for the following fall, August, September, and October. Again, this year we'll be all over the country, and so you'll be able to see where we're going to be in a state, in a town near you. Maybe you can make a drive over to see us, but you'll be able to see that start being posted next week, all the seminar schedule, and then you'll see it out, but we'll also really drill it down for the week coming. In other words, you'll see we're out August, September, but what's coming up the following week, couple weeks, will really tell you the place, the name of the town, the account, and really drill in on that to where we might get a chance to come see your pretty face out there. So that's coming up. Also, we want to give a call out to Matt Stavanis. Did I say that, Stavanis? Out of Davidsville, Pennsylvania last week. Big Matt, he won a 3-ounce bottle of Privilege Estrus. And as we kind of pivot point, we'll start running some promotions and stuff on the show for you to be able to participate, get to be a caller in, and if you're one of the ones that calls in, we run these promotions, you'll get something. Big Matt right there won him about a $30 bottle of Estrus. Never seen oxygen before. Privilege means we pulled that little boy off of it. We can't say it don't work. And he's going to have a big time this year with it. All right, so we're fixing to kick this bad boy off, guys. We're going to start off, okay, we got it. We're going to try to, and listen, as season progresses, the Facebooks and stuff will start getting, and the emails will start really hammering us, and we'll try to get to them as much. And if we don't get to them, we'll fall right back in where we are next week to do it. So don't think we're going to ignore you. We will do it, but we'll get as many in here as we can, especially as they get closer to the season. All right, Michael out of Middleton, New York, he wants to know, with the 3-in-1 scent eliminator, that's our scent defense, attracted insect repellent, will it spook deer during peak rut? It will not spook deer during pre-peak or post-rut. It won't spook deer today. It is a fascinating product. We knew that this product, we could do what we wanted it to do. And for all those that's listening, you may not know what Scent Defense 3-in-1 is. Scent Defense 3-in-1 is this right here. You got me there, Chris? 3-in-1? All right, so see that product right there? We're the only ones in the country with this. Everybody's got an odor stop product. And guys, you need to use an odor stop product whether you use our product or not, but you need to do it. Everybody knows you take a bath to kill your human odor. Everybody knows that they need to take a bath, wash the clothes to kill the human odor. Everybody knows when you get out of the truck to walk to the stand, I don't care how cold it is, dude, you're going to sweat. Well, if you sweat, you stink. And if you stink, they're going to know it. So this product right here is 3-in-1. It's a whole different concept. Everybody else's product on the market kills odor, kills bacteria that causes the odor. What we do is 3-in-1. Ours kills odor, but it also repels ticks, mosquitoes, chiggers, black flies, any kind of biting insect. All insects produces a compound called octopamine. And the way to look at that is it's like a chemical in the brain. Fish don't produce it. Birds don't produce it. Mammals does not produce it. Only insects produces this compound called octopamine. Sort of like a piston in a car firing. Right? What our stuff does, it shuts it down and it blocks the signal, shuts them down almost instantaneous. Now, so our product not only kills the odor, which what everybody else does, but where theirs stops, ours kills, repels ticks, mosquitoes, chiggers, black flies, plus it is an attractant. Now, we get this question all the time going, how in the world can you kill odor, repel ticks, mosquitoes, chiggers, black flies, all that, and at the same time attract deer? Folks, that's why it's changing the market. Now, if you notice, I just told you, I didn't tell you exactly how it does it. That'd be a no-no, but I can flat tell you it does. And here's the way they're going to come to it. And so let me get to this, back to the question. During the peak rut, anytime, you could take this right now and go out on your piece of property and spray it. Here's the way they're going to come to it. Notice what I just said. Here's the way they're going to come to it. It doesn't matter what time of year you spray it. May, June, July, August, September, 12 months out of the year, they're all going to come to it. Bucks, does, spotted fawns. Doesn't matter. They're all going to come in the same way. They're going to come in with the tongue stuck out, licking their nose. It's not a sexual attractant as much as it is with a, just a, you know, it's not even as much as a curiosity scent. It's a scent that they like. And the key to this is, we knew we could get them to come to it. But dog, and I'm just being honest with you, it surprised us. Even the spotted fawns is coming in. They're coming in with tongue stuck out, every one of them. Now, a man at a show the other day said he didn't believe that, and one of our dealers came up and said he gave a bottle to a customer who didn't believe that, and he put it on his fanny pack and left it at the base of the stand, and a doe and a fawn come up and started licking it at the base of the stand. Good stuff. It's called Scent Defense 3-in-1. Folks, you're not going to want to hunt this year without that. Hey, go beyond just killing odor. Repel ticks, mosquitoes, chiggers, black flies. Attract the deer in. 3-in-1. Get you some. All right, I believe we got us a call coming in. I believe we do. Yeah, we do. All righty, you got Don and Bell. Who we talking to?
Dave Enright.
Big Dave. How you doing, babe?
Oh, not too bad. Yourself?
Yes, sir. Dave, where you out of?
Preston, Minnesota.
Preston, Minnesota. Now, look, are you from there originally?
Yeah, not too far from here. About 35 miles from here.
Well, that's a pretty part of it. Now, Preston, is that, what part of the state are you in?
Southeast corner.
Southeast. Okay, well, you're, all right. Good hunting up there. Just too cold, man.
Yeah, it does get a little bit of that cold side in the winters. There's no doubt about that.
You know they make a couple interstates come out of that state.
Yeah, they get a couple that go north too. But
yeah.
It's one of those things. I've lived in Colorado and in Iowa also, and it just calls you back home, does you?
No, that's right. I mean, you can't beat it. I mean, heck, I'm from rural South Alabama. I still live there, and I've traveled all over this great country. But Furman, Alabama, still home. What kind of question you got for us tonight?
Well, the first question that I had was, last year was the first year using your scent, and I was pretty impressed with them. It helped one of my good friends harvest a nice 130, minimum 30-inch 10-pointer.
Good.
And he was cruising daylight, and that happened probably within 3 days after started using your scent.
Yep. Well, we appreciate that. And most people don't know, but Dave lives right up there in the middle of one of our big competitors, and good friends of mine, Wildlife Research, and good company and good friends. But boy, you living right smack in the middle of all that up there. So, look, all we tell people is we just want all of our business and just a little bit of theirs. You know what I'm saying? So we're trying to tell the story. And look, it makes a big difference. In the scent, was he using estrus or buck?
I was using estrus. I was using the peak estrus that you're supposed to use right during the peak. Yep.
Are you bow or gun hunting?
Bow. We bow and gun hunt.
What time of year were you? Was he chasing does?
Yeah, they were past the chasing stage. It was just starting to get towards the peak.
Second, third.
So it was bow season yet.
Yeah. You were getting toward. Yeah, they were just beginning, or you were ending the peak.
I would say from the best that I could figure out on our property there, we were probably 2 days into the actual breeding.
Yeah, you first part of November.
Yeah, first part of November, last day or two in October.
Yep. People ask me all the time, we're out and about, and we're fixing to start, next week giving you the seminar schedules around the country. In fact, we're going to be up in your part of the world up there. I'm going to be in Black Duck, Minnesota. You can't make it. You know where that is?
Yeah, roughly. Yeah.
It's just, it's on the Canadian line, due north of the city. Due north. But I tell everybody the way to look at that, everybody thinks the peak of the, and it is historically, more. Dave, you live in a part of the country that really you can define the peak of the rut better than probably anywhere in the country. Historically, 1st to the 15th, you're the peak of the rut in November. But from Halloween on, you're going to start seeing running. But the peak of the rut is just that. That means when the majority of the does are standing and not running. Do you tune into the show much?
Just recently, the last few weeks.
Okay, good.
I've been following. That you're sent online, but this is the first time in the last few weeks has been the first I've watched your show.
Well, good. We appreciate that. And one of the things you'll hear in the show is recurring themes. Very, very important. Look, you and I, you can't live what you don't understand. Right? You just can't.
Yep.
You can't teach me something you don't understand. And most hunters misunderstand the word rut and the word estrus, especially the word estrus. A lot of people think that the rut is when a buck's chasing a doe. Well, that's not the rut, that's the peak of the rut. And a lot of people, if you see a buck chasing a doe tomorrow at work, you ask 10 hunters this, and I bet you 7 or 8, maybe even 9 out of 10 will give you this answer. If you ask them, when you see a buck chasing a doe, that doe's in what? And they're going to, 9 out of 10 of them is going to tell you estrus, or she's in heat, or estrus. But in reality, she's not. The word estrus means an animal will stand and not run. There's a distinction between coming in and being in. Coming in, have you ever seen a buck chase a doe? Live TV? Yeah.
Multiple times.
Yeah. So, you ever thought, why is she running?
She's not ready.
She's not ready. All right, so she's not coming in. She's not ready yet. He can tell she's coming in. He's irritating her. The peak of the rut is when she's standing and not running. That's when the majority of the does are standing, thus makes sense, peak. There is a time in which on that piece of property you guys hunt that the majority of the does are standing and not running. Now, if you come on down south, the peak of the rut, Dave, is sort of like a sliding board. If we were to start in Minnesota and come to Alabama and Florida, when it happens in Minnesota, it's going to be a distinct, 7-10 days, dude. It's on and it's over with, right? And it's like cutting off of, flipping a switch. The further south you come, it's more elongated. It kind of ebbs and flows, and it lasts a little longer. Have you ever hunted outside of Minnesota?
Yeah, Colorado and Iowa.
Yeah, well, now those are two different, unique states by themselves. Of course, especially Colorado. But now, when you get into Iowa, southeast corner.
That was actually the northwest corner.
Okay. Anywhere in Iowa, but Iowa's a different animal too because it's all flat, and the deer live in the corn, right? And once they cut that corn, man, they got to go to those wood lots and they travel those drainage ditches. And that's true for a lot of Midwestern states, but certainly true in Iowa. They live in the corn till you cut the corn, and then they got to go to those little old wood lots. And they got to they'll travel those irrigation ditches, Down here, that's not the case. If you ever come to Alabama, the southeast, especially Alabama, we put you in a stand, you think, my God, can I ever see anything? Because, dude, it's thick, and but he's still a whitetail. And so hunting the rut there in Preston, Minnesota is a little bit different. Some ways it's easier, some ways it's harder. But there is a time in which that you do that. So you both hunted using the estrus, right?
Yes.
You ever use any buck urine?
I have not used any of yours. I'm 38, and I've been bow hunting with my dad since I was 13. So over the years, especially when I moved back from Colorado, I've done a lot of studying, followed the graphs and the charts and what seems to work best. I keep a log every year of what's going on, what does work, what doesn't. I've used a lot of dominant bucks, a lot of submissive or young, immature buck scents. Also, I've had good luck with all of it, but I've gotten to that stage where I want something that's the best quality. And I found over the years, primarily hunting on the one property that I grew up on, every 3-4 years you got to switch scents because the deer, for some reason, key in on it that it's related to hunting.
Right, and
well, there's a pressure there.
Now, and now, let me tell you, you just said something. I want everybody to hear what, because Dave, I've never met you, have I?
No.
I mean, all right. Pay attention to what Dave just said. We hear this all the time, and we hear people tell us that, golly, I have to change up. And what you're saying is, see, what separate? I've been in the scent industry 30 years, and I bottled Tinks, started Code Blue, Top Secret is patent pending in 4 different ways. If it's not Top Secret or Scent Defense, if it's not Top Secret or Code Blue, it is a blend of urines, which means everybody on that piece of property is hunting the same smell. You see what I'm saying? In other words, I don't know if you know it, but a 55-gallon drum of urine, a bottle, 7,040 bottles. All 7,040, if it's a blend of a bunch of deer, Tinks, Wildlife, those are all blends. And so, you're hunting with your buddy, and you go to Bass Pro or Cabela's or Myers up there, and you get a bottle. Dunham's, you get a bottle. It's all the same smell. So what happens is, Tom, or I'm down the ridge from you, and I spook that deer. Well, I just educated him. And all you know is you got a deer blowing going past you. And so it's putting pressure on him. And he's associating, and back to my opening remarks of the show, it's that time of year start putting pressure, and that's exactly what you're saying. Now, along comes Code Blue. It changed the scent industry because Dave every bottle's from a different deer. It stopped that pressure. That means everybody that hunts on your piece of property could hunt at the same time, and each one of you be hunting a different deer. Now then, let's fast forward to Top Secret. Top Secret is single urine, no oxygen. Phenomenally better. When you open a bottle of deer scent, if you were to go to a store and open it up, it's brown. And the reason it's brown is because it's ammoniated. Oxygen turns urine dark. It ammoniates it, which is a natural process. Give you an example. Have you ever seen a dog or deer come up and smell something and go off? And what they're doing is they're marking, and it tells another deer how long it's been since that animal was there, right? So if you put brown urine in a bottle, which means it's already ammoniated, it's old, and you put it in a bottle, and then it's sitting in that bottle with oxygen, it's called headspace, Dave, between the top level of the bottle and the top of the cap is called headspace. That headspace is oxygen. So it's already old urine, brown. It's sitting in oxygen, getting browner, and you pour it out. What you just told that deer was there was a deer there at one time. Now, when you open Top Secret, the first time it ever sees oxygen is when you opened it. Dark urine says the deer was there. Top Secret's clear oxygen. Yellow urine says the deer's there now. And look, if I'm going to hunt in Preston, Minnesota when it's cold up there, I want to tell that sucker I'm out there now, not I was out there 2 months ago.
Yeah, and that's why when I started looking, Code Blue Standing Estrus was something that really kind of opened my eyes to it, and that was when it first came out. So 6 years ago, something like that. Yep. And now when I found your scent, I seen that, and that really struck a chord with me. And where we hunt, it's a lot of bluffs and big valleys. So we have, on 200 acres, we have like 8 resident does. Well, when the rut comes around, you can have 20 bucks from 5 miles away.
Yeah.
That you've never seen before on your property, because these valleys run on for miles upon miles.
Right. They just keep them running around in there.
Yeah, and then the hunters, you got the pressure, and like you said, we started noticing mature does start blowing out at the scent that we were using.
Yeah.
And that was a big key factor for us.
Let me ask you, were they blowing buck urine or were they blowing estrus?
If it was anything you've used, if you had a mature doe that smelled that smell every year and correlated to danger, it didn't matter what it was. I had them blowing out at fresh earth wafers.
Yeah. Listen, I say this all the time to people, and hunters that's had this happen gets it real quick. I'd rather spook a Boone and Crockett than I had a mature doe.
Yeah.
Because a doe, pardon my expression, but that bitch ain't gonna give it up. She's locked in on you, and she's gonna blow that stand every time she comes in, whether you in it or not.
Yep.
Now, buck,
so
we
could hear them. If that doe picked in on you, we finally had to harvest her.
That's right.
But every single year, if she caught a whiff of that, she'd blow out and run down the whole valley, and you could hear her probably 600-700 yards away. And you give her an hour and a half later, and she'd circle back around and try and get your wind again and do it again.
It's funny because we had a bunch of Cajuns come in one time on a piece of property when my son was little. Derek's 31 now. And we were bow hunting, and like an idiot, I had these, when I say 8, 9, 10 Cajuns was coming in. If you ain't ever hunted with a Cajun, dude, you haven't lived yet. And these customers, dude, they'll slaughter does. They'll tear a doe's butt up. They're after that meat. And which is nothing wrong with it. Well, anyway, we hung stands, last minute, moving stuff around, and I decided we'd sit there, and Derek probably wasn't 50 yards over the next ridge to me, and I had this doe come in. Dave, sometimes how you just kind of think you hear something, and you kind of slowly look, and sometimes you just look. Well, I just looked. That sucker started blowing. She blew 56 times. That doe, my son counted them. And we came in, I put a Cajun out on that thing. He come in just cussing as a Cajun would. Son, he was so mad. He said he had this doe come in. She started blowing and stomping way out coming in. And we literally, like you said a few minutes ago, we had to hunt that doe back, trying to kill her ahead of she got in there so we could take her out. Because she'd blow. I mean, way out there. She'd blow coming in, stomping, blowing, stomping, and circling. It was crazy. But back to your original question.
My original question on it is, with all this stuff that we've just covered, how often, with using your scent, as long as the wind's favorable, would you sit in that same stand? I've heard a bunch of different answers, and I'm trying to get down to.
It's all about pressure. Let me answer that by pressure, and also by, you've probably also heard from those same folks that say that if you ever killed a buck out of a stand, quit hunting it. Shoot a deer out of a stand or over a scrape. Well, that's kind of silly because it's real estate. If I kill Tom sitting in there over a scrape, right, and in his absence, the next most dominant buck is going to work that scrape, right? Yep. So there's no reason to leave it. Now, I mean, I wouldn't hammer it every day. It depends on how big your property is, what's going on around it, if you're bow or gun hunting, but there's absolutely nothing wrong with using scent from the same stand all season. See, because deer, what I try to tell people is that we as humans, we overthink this sucker. Deer urinate 365 days a year. Deer are urinating on your property as we're talking right now. They communicate. They're not thinking time and stuff, they're just communicating, right? They're just doing what's natural. And so it's okay. Now, but if let's say you spook a deer, you spook a doe, or something like that, then I may lay off that stand. Are you bow hunting that stand?
Generally, our season, bow season, will start September 15th, and we'll hunt it. The property will hunt throughout the season. Until December 31st.
Yeah, you're fine. I mean, you're hunting it on the weekends.
For the first until about the middle of October, then we kind of back off a little bit and start glassing and watching again, and then we'll hit it hard that last week in October, where it can be any day of the week.
Unless you're blowing deer off of that going in, and they're blowing. It's okay. How you sit in a stand, sometimes the deer won't leave, and you just sit there and you get down, and then they'll blow you in dark. Well, that's okay. But if you're spooking them constantly there, then they're going to associate. They're going to start looking for an association to that. So sometimes if you haven't got to do it, I do this. I know it's going to sound stupid, but if the weather's right, some stands you hunt for weather, you hunt for wind. I don't know if that stands for that, morning, afternoon, or if it's one you just hunt on the wind. But if the weather's right, and my gut tells me that's where that boy's going to be, that's where I'm going to hunt. I'm not scared to make a mistake. I try to use all the experience you got, but sometimes whitetail do stupid stuff. But a whitetail is a very, very habitual animal. They're going to do the same thing over and over and over and over and over till pressure makes them change that. And as soon as that pressure backs off or they get used to it, and then what I mean by pressure, just you start, in the opening remarks, after the 4th, we're going to start going in the woods. They'll start getting pressure, but they'll realize that pressure is not aggressive to them. It's pressure, and then they'll kind of sort of get used to it. But as season starts going and gun starts going off, now they're going to start associating that four-wheeler sound or that truck sound with the noise. So it builds. But I wouldn't be scared. You're okay to hunt the same scent off of that thing. The thing about it with Top Secret is you hunt every bottle's a different deer. Give you an example. If I were to be hunting a buck on that stand where you are, and I accidentally blew him that morning, I would not hesitate to hunt that stand again that afternoon. I'm just simply going to use another bottle of scent, which means there's another deer there. See what I'm saying? And so he can go, okay, well, it's okay then. Because he can literally tell, wait a minute, there's another deer here now. There was a deer here, now here's another deer. So it kind of calms them. So that's the advantage of Top Secret. It's not only that you can have every bottle's a different deer, but every bottle's the first time you've opened it, which says he's there now versus he was there earlier. So now you're bringing in comfort to them because they say, okay, well, there's another deer there now. So it takes the edge off to a certain extent. More on a buck, believe it or not, than a doe.
Yeah, that makes total sense, and it's one of those things that slipped by you without even realizing it. It just didn't ring a bell until you said it that, hey, if you got an issue, switch scents.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the advantage of that. And the key to this thing is, look, we make excellent products, and I'm serious with that. I'm not just bragging because we make it, but we've been doing this a long time. Top Secret is changing the scent industry just like Code Blue did, and it has brought it to a whole new standard. Think about it. Never seen oxygen. When you're there, when you pour it out, it's the first time it sees oxygen. Man, you just can't get better than that. Having said that, nothing we sell you you're doing exactly the right thing tonight, because wisdom will put you in the right place, at the right place to hang a stand. Our scent or grunt is an edge to get them close enough to shoot. We can't draw what's not there, right? You can't shoot what you can't see.
Yep.
I mean, you just can't do it. You just go out in the woods and go bang, but it ain't gonna cook very good. You know what I mean? So, well, look. Any other questions?
I could sit on the phone and ask you questions all night long. That's one thing that if I had a choice, I would love to have somebody like you come up and take a look at properties and see what your overall opinions are, but
Well, listen, I tell you, we have people do this all the time. You can, of course, you can go on Google Map and actually get your topo of it and see it and see what other people are doing around you. You can tell if somebody else has got a tree stand on your line. You can tell if they got one 50 yards inside of your line. You can tell if they now put a food plot and is now trying to draw them off of you. And you need to do that. I mean, what I was going to say earlier is that we're predators as humans. We're top of the food chain, but we don't think like predators no more. Society's bred that out of us. And so we overthink it. With all that, just think about if you were right now go to any store and buy everything related to killing a white-tailed deer, you'd have to get a fleet of semi-trucks to haul it home.
Yeah,
right?
And that's where we've that property that I primarily hunt is 200 acres, and I have 28 tree stands on there for different winds.
Listen,
we do through food plots.
Behind my house in Furman, Alabama, there's a 20-acre clear cut. I take 6 does a year off of that little clear cut. I count them. I don't know if you can. That reminds me, what do we need to do, guys? We need to do a segment on canning deer. Have you ever canned deer?
My dad has a long time ago, but normally we butcher our own now and make our own sausage and stuff.
Yeah, man, we can deer. We can 5, 6 does. Anyway, but I take 6 does a year out of that 20-acre clear cut. It's a long, narrow 20 acres, and it's a branch, a little creek in the bottom, and they're going from one clear cut to the other, and I know it. And when I want to take a doe, we'll go in there and take those does out of there. In Alabama, you can kill a buck and doe. You used to kill a buck and doe a day. Actually, you used to kill a buck and 2 does a day. They've now limited us to about 4 or 5 bucks. You can still kill a doe a day, but yeah, you're asking all the right questions. And look, you can topo that. Go on Google Map. Have you ever done that?
Yes, I actually have an app for my phone through ScoutLook.
Well, the reason I say that is you can email that to us. We can throw it up on the screen here, and you can see it. I can see it, and you can say, Don, see that over there right there? I got a stand here. And that really helps people to do that, because we're talking about a specific piece of property where you hunt, where you have a stand, and you have issues. And we can say, okay, is that this, that, how far is this? And it helps people to learn how and where to set up. So we can do that. So you can freeze that and email it to us, and we'll be glad to talk about placement.
Well, we'll have to do that, because I've got a couple of them that we've hunted over the years that I've had some of the biggest bucks in my life, and I'm talking, in the high or low 200 non-typical inch double drop tines that are 12 inches long on both sides, and I've had them within bow range, but they've been in areas that's too thick to shoot. You can see them moving through, and I've had them snort wheezing back at me, but you just can't draw them out. Yeah,
well, listen, we'll listen. What you need to do on what you just did, because we're fixing to go to a break, but what you just said, you need to call back, if you will, in the next couple weeks, next week or next couple weeks, and ask that question, say that again about seeing them bucks that close, and you'll get a grunt, snort, wheeze from them. And let's talk about how to draw that buck out of that circumstance, because you can do it a lot of times. You can't do it all the time, but sometimes you can, because a grunt, snort, wheeze, he's basically holding his ground and saying, boy, I'm going to fix and kick your butt. But when they do a grunt, snort, wheeze, they tend to want to kind of stay where they are to do it. In other words, they've drawn a line, and it's sort of like you turkey hunt.
Yep.
It's sort of like a gobbler. He'll get hung up on a damn limb or blown over a tree, right? And he'll stand there and gobble his head off. Now you know he's hung up. You keep thinking he's gonna come. You just gonna call yourself sick. You got to shut up and go around and call him back in a different direction away from that tree. Well, it's kind of sort of like a buck. So call back in, do your map, and we'll talk about placement, and also let's address that grunt, snort, wheeze scenario, where especially where you can kind of see movement. But yeah, that's and you again, and they're telling me, but the Midwest, a grunt, snort, wheeze is is not it's not common, but it's way, you hear it more in the Midwest than we would in the Southeast. You know, a lot of hunters in the Southeast hear it and they don't know what it is. But it's the most aggressive sound a whitetail will make, but it is his he's pissed and he's basically calling you out. And he tends to want to hold his ground though. And so you got to know how to get him out of that, like that turkey being held up, to get him come out of that. And there's some ways to do that. So shoot us some, freeze it, shoot it to us. We'll talk about the map and we'll do that.
All right, sounds good.
Hey, Kay, if you get a chance, do it. We'll while it's fresh on our minds, we'll do it next week.
Okay.
All right, man. Appreciate it. Thanks so much for calling.
Oh, thank you.
Dave, thank you, sir.
Have a good one.
You too. Bye-bye. All right, folks, we'll be right back.
From Don Bell, the founder of Code Blue, comes Top Secret Reserve Doe Estrus, the finest doe estrus ever collected. Top Secret oxygen-free collection process is a complete generation above Code Blue. Our patent-pending collection process means no ammonia and no ammonia smell. At a limited quantity of 12,000 bottles, only 1/10% of hunters will be lucky enough to add Top Secret to their arsenal. Visit TopSecretDeerScent.com today and join the 1/10% Club.
All right, folks, listen. You know what the logo means. It's a 1/10% club. Folks, listen to me. If you're watching the show, obviously you're watching it, you're seeing the logo, but look, old Dave up there in Minnesota. Hey, Dave, I know you're still watching. This is about you. You're talking about getting the reserve. Here it is. Folks, you can join the club tonight. It's a 1/10% club. That's a flat $100 bill you hold, and you want to get a good look at that right in there. That's what a $100 bill looks like. Now let me tell you what that is. That's 26 ounces of reserve estrus. Now, folks, listen, there's no sales pitch in this. This is not about, there is a difference in what's in this bottle. Here's the difference. This is from a 3-4 year old mature doe. What's the urine that's in this bottle, you cannot say it does not work. We pulled the old boy off of her. This is in process. But the difference is it's never seen oxygen. So there's 12,000 bottles of this for 12 million deer hunters. Now, if you give it a look at that, that's the 1/10% club. Now, only 1/10% of the people is going to get a bottle of this. Now, once you get a bottle, nobody can ever take it away from you. You're literally a 1/10% club member. And then each year, it's like buying season tickets at the University of Alabama. Or at some college. You get that season ticket every year. So long as you re-up it, nobody can ever get that bottle away from you. You forget, or you decide to not buy your reserve 1 year, then you're going to lose your 50-yard line ticket and you're going to get to watch Alabama play football on TV. 12,000 bottles, but I almost dropped that bottle. That'd be an ugly, boy. That would have been real ugly. I'm not talking about just a $100 bill ugly. This also comes in buck, but here's the deal. This is literally the bucks that we pulled off these does, but here's the deal. There's only about 1,100 bottles of that. So this is like hen's teeth. This is harder to get than this. You can be a club member by buying either bottle. You can get both as long as supplies last. And guys, this is as long as supplies last product. Club members, the majority of our club members join up every year. So as you go, they just keep rejoining. So you can join the club tonight, right now, by one or two ways. And the way you do that, you can join on the screen right there. You can join by buying a one-time purchase. You can buy tonight and say, Don, I want my bottle. I want to join the club. I want estrus or buck, or I want both, but I don't want you to ship it till October. No problem. We'll ship it to you in October. Or this time of year, what a lot of people do and take advantage of it, we have actually a for-pay. You can join the club tonight and buy that bottle and say, you know what, I want that bottle in October, November, and pay for it $25 a month. It'll hit your credit card 4 months in a row, $25 a month, and we'll ship that bottle to you and you're a club member. With all the advantages of being a club member, and there it is right there on the screen. Go to the website, hit the button right there. You can go to it and look at it, decide if it's for you. If you want the best that the industry's ever seen, join the 1/10% club, folks. Now, join early, stay in, make sure you got your product. I believe we got another caller on the line. Here we are. All righty, you got Don Bell. Who we talking to?
Hey, Don, this is Ronnie Streetman.
Oh, Big Ronnie, how you doing?
Doing good. How about yourself?
Doing good, doing good. Big Ronnie, remind everybody where you're from.
I'm in Southwest Georgia.
Is it? Am I pronouncing it correctly? Ellaville?
That is absolutely correct.
Southeast Georgia?
I'm actually Southwest Georgia,
Okay.
about 50 miles from the Alabama line.
About 50 miles from Dothan?
That's right. That's right.
There you fall back in that range.
Just a little bit more north of that.
Okay, I got you. Well, man, we're glad to have you back on tonight. What kind of question you got for us tonight?
Well, I know we have a lot of different calls, for the bucks and things like that with the grunts and things, but how many different vocalizations does a doe have?
Well, you're right. I'm gonna tell you what most people say. There's even researchers that thinks that deer make a bunch of sounds, but basically does, you got 3 or 4 categories. You got the alarm, you got the contact, you got the breeding, and then you have the almost like an irritation type sound. And your alarm sound, we all heard that. Of course, most hunters call that a blow. Had a deer blow me, but really what that is, that's just a quick snort, and it's a loud snort, and that normally is attributed along with a good old-fashioned foot stomp. And and normally right after that you get to see a white tail go off through dancing. And what's crazy, they just don't bounce; they just zigzag that tail like almost slapping, almost irritating you, teasing your butt. So you got the alarm, and then they do a contact sound, and they do that all during the year. A doe, now I'm still talking about does now. Of course, a buck does this, but where you really see a variance in it is, a buck will do an alarm sound too, but does will have a contact sound with fawns or yearlings, and it can be a soft grunt to a mew or almost a clicking type sound. They make a bunch of stuff. It's almost like chatter. Us people, you go in a restaurant and you hear all this kind of little background noise and the plates clatter and chat, and it's a really a distinctive. You'll hear the little mews and the little soft grunts, and sometimes they even sound like a little click. Now I'm talking about if you got deer together. Now, if you were to just watch them, if they're just feeding and there's no problem. You got does of various sizes and maturities, spotted fawns, yearlings. You got a mixture, so there's a lot of that kind of going on. And this is when they're not alarmed. They're just kind of going about life, and they do that all through the year. You can do it springtime, fall, hunting season. They're communicating, understanding, and deer are very vocal when they're together. Right. A lot of hunters, don't get to see. First of all, a lot of hunters don't give them time to hear all that. They see them, they're gonna shoot them. But the way you learn to do that is give them a little bit of time, and they'll do a soft bleat type sound or a soft grunt. Now that's more of a contact sound, and you'll hear that all during the year. Then of course you got the estrus bleat of a doe, and then you'll have the almost an irritation type, and that's a combination of almost like a and that's not a real long vocal. It's almost like it's not a snort, but it's and I know it's gonna sound dumb saying this, but it almost sounds like a grunt and almost like a buck grunt. Have you ever seen a doe slap a young buck, get on her hind legs and pop him? Yeah. She's got a young buck, and she's trying to get him out. In other words, all of a sudden one day she starts slapping his butt around. Well, she means leave, and you'll start hearing that. So she's very defined, very quick, and then she's through with it, and then she's back to doing. It's almost like a correctional type sound. But there's nuances to it, and so that's really. In fact, some guys say there's 200-300 different sounds they make, and I doubt it's that many. But there's.
I've heard that, especially during hunting season. To actually hear the deer before I see it, you can hear that low meow, growl, whatever it is they do.
Yeah.
And then I've also heard you're talking about that clicking type sound. It's almost like a clicking noise, and I didn't know
it could be
the relation between the different sounds they're making.
If you're hearing that sound, you know you got deer and they're not alarmed. Whatever you're hearing, deer either coming in, feeding, or they may be walking, clicking, talking, mewing, and so you know they're there. And that, you ever hear that sound, and sometimes you never see a deer. They may be feeding off it, or just in and around, or coming through, communicating and going by. So that's a good sound. That means they're there, deer are there, and they're not alarmed.
Is that something you think would attract a buck? Is a clicking sound? I don't know if do they make a call that imitates that sound?
Well, look, a buck. Well, I mean, they make a grunt call. How they click it, but a buck is primarily concerned, and this shocks people. A buck is primarily concerned with bucks 98% of the year.
Okay.
Guess when he's concerned with a doe? Peak of the rut. Outside of that, a buck right now today, bucks in Ellaville, Georgia, are in bachelor groups. They've been in bachelor groups since season ended last year. So bucks are running together. Bucks actually spend more time together with other bucks than they do with does. Because think about what we just said a few minutes ago, totally unrelated to what we're talking about now, where a doe will run her own offspring off a buck. He comes up, he's getting of age, and all of a sudden, dude, she's just like a dog weaning puppies. All of a sudden, dude, you're done, and you think, boy, she's being mean, but no, she's saying you're through, and you're through nursing, you're done.
Yep.
And all of a sudden, so it's the same way, but bucks are primarily concerned with other bucks, so. It's not that it would necessarily draw him. It certainly wouldn't run him off. But, bucks would come in. But it's not necessarily that they're coming in because of like a sexual call or something like that. It just means, and bucks it's not that bucks are ignoring the does. But think about it. How can I say this? How old are you?
I am 49 years old.
All right, 49, got any kids?
I do.
Mama's correcting the kids. She's correcting that son or that daughter, teenager. And, you hearing her just giving them down the road. Well, you may not want to go in there right then. You know what I mean? So you may go outside and go on down the road because Mama's taking care of it. Or you don't want to hear Mama whine again, or tell them for the 10th time when they ought to told them one time. You know what I'm saying? So sometimes it would draw them in. Sometimes it may not. But it's not necessarily, that's not what that call's necessarily doing. You know what I mean? But so it certainly wouldn't run him off. Wouldn't have any reason to run him off, just contact sound. But your bucks are more concerned with bucks than they are with does.
Yeah.
I mean, you listen to this show much. I use buck urine over estrus any time of the year, anywhere in the country. I mean, I want to use estrus, but dude, I'm going to use buck urine.
Right.
And that's why. So it's a you got your alarm, you got your contacts, you got your breeding. A lot. You remember back when the doe bleats, the can came in popular?
Yep.
And boy, everybody had to have one of them cans. You turn it on and it'd cry. And, fawn distress call. Well, when it's time to use the fawn distress call? Well, early it's best early archery season.
Right.
And and people say, well, yeah, I had a guy one time tell me, well, that don't work. Well, you know, it does work, and here's what happens. Yeah, let's say, of course, you already told me you're married. Let me use somebody else. Old Tom here. Chris is sitting there, his son. Well, let's don't use Tom. Let's say somebody comes in, and you know, you've been a while, you've been gone a couple weeks traveling, you're coming home, and you want to spend some quality time with Mama, and you got a newborn down the hall, asleep. And you know, things going pretty good along there. You and Mama getting along pretty good in there, and all of a sudden, that baby starts crying down the hall. Yep. Now, I got news for you. I don't care what you telling Mama. I don't care how good you think you are. Mama's going to get up and go to that baby. And you can tell her, hey, it'll be good, let it cry. It'll be good for its lungs. No, dude, she's going to get up and go to that baby. So a fond distress is sort of like that. It's reverse psychology. Yeah. The buck is not coming to the fond distress. The buck is coming to the doe who's coming to the fawn. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
All right. So the psyche is there, but yeah, a lot of people don't realize they make all those calls. But you're spot on hearing that little click, that little mew. It's not a meow, almost like a mew sound, but you know, that's just low talking.
Well, actually, I don't know if they told you or not, but I actually rescued a baby deer several years, about 2 years ago, I guess 3 years ago, and I was able to. The mom got run over, and the deer was brought to me to try to save, and it worked out, saved the deer, and now 2 years later, she's had her first fawn, and I've never kept her in a pen. She roams. There's thousands of acres around my home here that she can go, but she always comes by and visits me.
Yeah, we actually, I didn't mean to interrupt you, Ronnie. We've actually got Dixie's picture up on the screen there, and it is fascinating, and everybody listening to what Ronnie's saying, she's not fenced. And she comes back even after she's had a fawn. How close does she bring the fawn in?
This fawn was just born about 2 weeks ago, so I have not actually. It's been to the edge of the yard, but that's as close as I've gotten. She'll bring it in. She'll come on in, but yeah. The fawn is actually staying out to the edge right now.
But what I mean is she'll bring it on in, and it's amazing. And one of the things you're seeing is that doe knows, even though she goes off, she knows where to come back to. That's her.
We have, and I was always worried with my pet dogs and all that the coyotes and things like this around us she wouldn't know the difference. But somehow I know that she has distinguished the difference and survived for 3 years now. And I even got my trail cameras out on the neighboring land here and several pictures of her with some nice butts and things, you know.
Yeah.
Mainly with deer, like normal deer, but she'll still come by and visit me.
Yeah.
But she makes that clicking noise.
Yep.
She calls to me with that clicking noise, and I was just wondering what the relation was there.
She's vocalizing calmness, communion. She's recognizing talking, and you'll eventually see her doing that. And that fawn, she'll call her that fawn, and that fawn will eventually come in there to you.
Yeah.
But it is amazing. So we're going back to the communication stuff. If you know she's doing it in your presence, and or can you tell she's kind of directing that toward you, or is she just doing it in and around you?
She's directing it toward me.
Maybe walking into you doing it.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's communication, and again, that's a good communication because she's calm. Everything's fine, and eventually she will allow that fawn to come in. More than likely, though, Ronnie, she's the one. It's not that the fawn is scared to come in. She's keeping that fawn out there.
Right.
And eventually, especially if it's a young fawn, a couple weeks, but you'll start seeing her calling, and then in fact, keep us informed on this. You ought to be able to see in the coming weeks you'll hear that contact sound or some other contact sounds like we're talking about, and where she's calling back, and you'll start seeing that fawn.
Right.
So she's going to come in around the dogs and check everything out. She ain't going to call him out until she feels safe enough. But yeah, you'll see a progression in that.
She definitely knows her safe zones around here. It's pretty amazing. And I'm an avid hunter. I grew up hunting, and it's been pretty amazing too. And I've been hunting for probably 30 years, I guess. But
learned a lot, didn't you, from her?
I have learned more in the last 2 years about a deer than I have that entire 30 years I hunted hard.
Yeah, that's right. Because so what happens is we shoot them.
Yep.
You know, we see them and we shoot them, rather than understanding why were they there, what brought them there, how long have they been there, what's the circumstances, what's behind that deer. A lot of hunters, they're waving me here. A lot of hunters, if you pay attention to what a buck's doing, it can tell you whether or not you got a better buck behind him. And a good example of that is if you're grunting and you see a buck chasing a doe, or you don't even have to be grunting, but you see a young basket buck, a little young buck running a doe. Somebody may be a shooter to some people, but it's a basket buck.
Right.
If you will stop looking at that buck chasing that doe and start looking behind that buck, start just letting your eyes go right where they came from and start looking back, what's going to happen a lot of times is you got a bigger buck that will hang back and allow that teenager who does not know any better that girl is coming into estrus versus being in estrus. And lack of a better way, he's allowing that young buck to do foreplay.
Right.
And when she comes in and finally stops, because she will, when she's in estrus, that's what it means. A doe will stand and not run.
Right.
Then he'll just waltz in and breed her.
I got you.
So but yeah, man, you can keep us abreast of that.
I will.
The hunters, the viewers would love to hear and see that, and that progression of her, and with those sounds comforting, and you'll start.
And I try to spread this message that, everybody, well, not everybody, but some folks think hunters are, these anti-hunters think we're so bad, but as much as I love to hunt now, I have a love for animals, and any way I can help one, I will, but I also know how to feed my family if I need to, you know what I mean?
No, absolutely. And, but man, it is so true. You let them walk is how you learn. And a lot of hunters won't let them walk. They'll shoot them. And, if you make enough mistakes, you'll learn. And that's what this show's all about. Listen, we learn as much sitting here, because there's all these nuances, and that reminds me of this or that. And I go, really, I didn't have that happen. And you're telling, and it clicks in my head, well, wait a minute, that's why that deer did that back when so it helps us all to do it. So it's not a one-way deal with this show. It's always two-way. So no matter how silly an answer question is, first of all, there's no such thing when you're talking about a white-tailed deer. It's all circumstantial. Chris, did you like that word? It's all conditional, regional pressure. So,
right.
But yeah. Keep us alert. Keep us abreast of when. Certainly notify us when Dixie brings that fawn into the yard.
I will.
And how she's reacting, how she and the fawn is reacting to the dogs that she knows is okay.
Yep.
Watch the nervousness of the fawn and start listening to the sounds of Dixie makes to the fawn, and watch the fawn's response.
If anybody wants to try to keep up with her, she has that Facebook page there on Facebook, Adventures of Miss Dixie, and that's another good way to keep up with her.
All right, we'll post that too. We'll do it, and call us back and let us know.
John, thank you very much.
Hey, man, Ronnie, appreciate it, man. We'll talk to you a little bit. Appreciate it so much.
All right.
Thank you, Ronnie. Bye-bye. All right, folks, we got an hour and 5 minutes gone. It's amazing. This is the reason we're telling you that we will try to stay caught up on those Facebook questions and stuff. Folks, look, next week's going to be after the 4th. It's on, and it's right here, and we're learning. Pay attention to what Dixie's doing right there, and we'll see you next Thursday night at 7 o'clock. Hunting the Rut Hotline right here. Call in.